Welcome to Beyond the Policy, the podcast where we go past the fine print and into the real stories that shape how we live, work, and protect what matters most. I'm Matt Carafa, risk advisor, consultant, and founder of the Be Better Foundation, where each week sit down with clients, colleagues, and industry voices to talk about business, life, and the passions that drive each of us and the areas we can all work on to truly be better. This is Beyond the Policy. Welcome to Beyond the Policy. Excited to get into our conversation today. My first Lakota West alumni on the podcast today, Samuel Gilley, joining us. So, Sam, thanks for taking some time. And it's been a long time since we connected face to face, but shared some calls and emails back and forth with our jobs. But again, as we get started here, first off, thanks for taking time, and second, kick us off. What you're up to these days?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I'm honored. I didn't realize I would be the first Lakota West guest. There are far more impressive people than me from Lakota to make it on here, that should make it on here. But no, things are good. I got a 7-month-old and live with my wife in Marymount, Ohio. I'm a commercial litigation partner at Dinsmore Shohl. I sit on the Ohio Domestic Violence Network board and executive committee, and just been doing this now for, has it been since I graduated almost 20 years ago?
So we have our 20-year reunion coming up next month.
Yeah, it's wild to think about, but as much as things change, a lot of things stay the same. And I think that's going to be part of our conversation today, is how much that time shaped who we are.
Yeah. So perfect. Let's start there. I have, a lot of memories myself of high school, and, it was a great time. But, for you, what stuck out to your time at West, and anything that sticks out, whether it's sports or education, that, maybe is a glimpse into where you're at today?
Yeah, I was like yourself, very into sports. I mean, for me, it was 3 sports year round, almost my entire life. But I was also lucky to have parents who really pushed academics and almost prioritized academics for me. And trying to juggle all of that as a busy professional, that's a lot of what we do. I like to stay busy, but the running from practice to training to I still have to do my homework, and then I'm involved in other things in the school. It kind of gave me the foundation for everything that I do today. Lakota, so many great things to say about my time there, about the people there, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah. So in high school, did you know you wanted to be an attorney, go to law school?
I did. I was a bit of a sicko kid. I think it was 5th grade. I declared that I wanted to be an attorney. I don't think I knew exactly what being a litigator was at the time, beyond what you'd see on TV.
Sure.
But I knew I wanted to do it. Loved to not argue, but debate with friends and do that in classes. Even my own family had a kind of way of working through conflicts very verbally that, I was like, that's what I want to do. Yeah. It took me years to figure out what it really was, but I knew at a young age I wanted to be an attorney.
Yeah. Was that any specific school experiences that you were a part of that encouraged you during that? Because I'd look back and you would have said insurance, it would have been like throwing a dart at a dartboard, how I ended up where I am. But I always find it when I talk to people, was there a class, was there a project, was there something that you mentioned family and different things of just debating and that part of it, but anything specifically in school that sticks to you?
Yeah, it was a one teacher in particular. I think she's married now. It was Kim Snyder, 5th grade, Freedom Elementary. And we did this sort of almost a play, but like a mock trial type thing, where I think I played Benjamin Franklin, and it was 1776, and we're all wearing these wigs and doing the thing, and I just ate it up and absolutely loved it. And she separately had a huge impact on me. I think I was a couple months into 5th grade, and she pulled me aside and took me to another classroom and said, hey, you're well liked. A lot of the kids look up to you in a weird way. You have all this potential but you seem to kind of go through the motions, and you know, you could get A's if you tried a little bit, or you could try a lot harder and really apply yourself and do well. And it was the first time in school that somebody had sort of taken an interest in me like that and said, you can do more. Like, what are you doing? Get it together. You're cutting corners, you know, you're not, I could tell you're breezing through your homework. And that, I cared a lot about Mrs. Snyder and what she thought about me, and it had a big impact on me. And I actually, when I was in law school, went back to see her in the same classroom. It was awesome. It was a great moment. I thanked her. You know, I don't know if I'd be where I am today without her.
Yeah, we'll touch on that once we get through kind of how you got to your professional career, but definitely want to come back as I think mentorship in multiple areas, professionally, as a father, as, you know, athlete, all that plays a role. And, you know, and this one was a perfect example of a teacher, you know, filling that role, and it just caring. She didn't have to,
right?
But taking that extra step and, you know, transfer that to the working world now. I'm sure you have correlations. Let's just go to it now. So
sure.
Mentorship as a whole, anything else that, you know, comes in which she was one, but kind of, you know, that's 30 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, professionally, I am one of the biggest proponents of find a mentor, find people that know more than you, offer to help them, find ways to learn from them. And as a young attorney, I tell people this all the time. I survived and made my career by knocking on the doors of senior attorneys, some of them just a few years younger than me, some of them have been practicing for 30 years, and picking their brain as much as they would let me. And I'm sure I overstayed my welcome at times and drove them nuts. But there's so many things you need to learn, and there's so many things you don't know that organic mentorship is critical. So now I'm in a role where I'm a partner. I run our summer intern program. I'm a vice chair of our recruiting committee, and now I have the opportunity to kind of give back some.
Yeah.
And I take it very seriously. I think it was maybe noticed that I do take that very seriously, and I was put into these roles, but it's so important to me. You just can't do it on your own. And I'm in a law firm of 700 attorneys. If you encounter a problem, you could spin your wheels by yourself all day, all week, figuring it out. Odds are somebody else has run into it before, and if you pick up the phone or knock on their door and talk to them, they'll point you in the right direction and save you a lot of time. The analogy my brother uses a lot is, don't try to run through a brick wall when there's a ladder right there to get over it.
Yeah, very, very simple, but a lot of people spend their wheels and energy doing that. But like I said, mentorship and, you know, asking the right people and being in the right room definitely can help and aid that.
Can change your career.
Right. So let's fast forward a little bit. Graduate from Lakota. What was next for you? Eventually to law school, to partner. What was that journey like?
Yeah, I went to Miami University undergrad, studied political science, very much the textbook. I'm not going to take this too seriously, and I'm definitely going to law school degree, but no, I had an awesome experience at Miami. I minored in sociology, and, you know, despite I took school very seriously at the time, I still wanted to have fun and get the college experience, and somehow fast forwarded and I got a recognition from Miami for scholarship and leadership from their political science department, which shocked me at the time, but I guess some of the professors had seen the way that I operated, and I did some leadership things on campus as well that, and I just thought I was doing, didn't really understand that people were taking notes. So that was a big shift for me as I was looking down law school. And I had one professor in particular. She was a former, she was part of the CIA and studied post-Soviet relations. And she was a wonderful woman. She's since passed away, unfortunately. But she, similar to Miss Snyder in 5th grade, bought into me. And she's like, I see that you don't always speak up, but when you do, it's clear that you get it and you need to do it more, and I'm going to push you. I'm going to push you a lot because I see your potential. It was Dr. Dewisha at Miami University, and just another person that kind of gave me that nudge along in my career. And so I finished up my 4 years at Miami and was looking down law school, and ended up at Northern Kentucky Chase College of Law.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And a lot of, again, figuring out your path of, I'm sure there's lots of avenues you can take once you get your law degree, how did you ultimately end up where you are today?
Yeah.
And also, I know editor-in-chief was one of your roles you had there, and kind of what that process was like. Again, probably extra on top of studies and everything else, but kind of how did you manage that as well?
Sure. Well, I think to your first question, I've told people this story, and I say, listen to how lucky I got. And they said, that's not lucky, that's a lesson in networking. So I took a Supreme Court seminar that was taught by a federal judge at Chase, and the smartest person I've ever been around in my life. And I really admired him, and I would go to meet with him outside of class and ask for his advice on things. Even had him look at my resume, had him look at my writing samples, correct some things, and he took the time to do that. It meant a lot. And he's a federal judge who's insanely busy and highly respected. And then I decided, well, I want to clerk for a federal judge, and he was very encouraging with that. And I applied to a ton of different judges and got one interview, and I happened to be at lunch with my brother in Covington, and I see the judge who I took the Supreme Court seminar with, sitting with another judge. And I didn't want to approach him and bug him, but my brother encouraged me to go over, so I went over and said, hey, Judge, by the way, I got an interview. Thanks for all of your help. And showed up for the interview in Louisville, Kentucky with a federal judge there. First question is, how do you know this judge? And small world, the interview lasted 10 minutes. I got the job. And it was a one-year clerkship in Louisville, Kentucky. And from there, I only applied to one law firm and came to Dinsmore Shohl, the firm I've been at since.
Okay.
Knew I wanted to come back to Cincinnati. That's where my wife was. I think it's very important for leaders to recognize, I think I saw this in Conan O'Brien's commencement speech recently, where he said, the importance of being humble and recognizing you do get lucky. And not every accomplishment is just, you absolutely deserved it. Sometimes the stars align. So I can sit where I am now and look back and say, yeah, I got a little lucky there. And some things that maybe wouldn't have come to place, they did because I did the right things. And sometimes you do the right things and not everything works out. So that was big for me in kind of setting the trajectory of my career.
Yeah.
And in law school, editor-in-chief and all of that, I got to law school and knew that I was going to treat this like the most important job I've ever had. I don't know, like most people in law school, at Chase, you get a lot of second career folks, but most people in law school are coming right out of college, and they're going to treat it like an extension of college. And I immediately said to myself, I need to set myself apart.
Right.
I need to stand out. And so I worked tirelessly. I lived with my parents, commuted from Westchester, and had a room in the basement, an office in the basement, and I put in as much, sometimes too much time, overthinking things and meeting with professors and really trying to get to the bottom of what we were learning. And then it became, the opportunity presented for people to run for editor-in-chief of the Law Review. And my kind of pitch to the student body was, you guys have seen how I operate. You guys have seen how I am in class. You've seen the success I have. And you've seen that I am in all these professors' offices. I know them. I'm talking to all of them. That's what I'll bring if I'm editor-in-chief of the Law Review. If we have a problem, I'm going to find somebody that's going to help us figure it out. And I clearly have no problem putting in the work. And, they voted and I became the editor-in-chief. And that was a grind. I mean, it was another thing on top of law school and the classes and all the hard work and the externships and that. But, I was lucky to get into a cadence by my third year of law school where, sort of got some things figured out, had a little extra time to set aside for this and made it work,
Yeah.
Just like most things in life, you put in the time, you make it work. I mean, speaking of our times back at Lakota West, I mean, that's how you operated, and at least in athletics. You were, when I'm doing the sport, the practice, the training, whatever it is, I'm locked in and I know what I need to accomplish. And if you're not on board, get out of my way.
Yeah.
I remember you vividly. We're always like that. And you've got to be like that.
Yeah. It was funny. I was back home last night. My nephews are at Lakota now.
Yeah.
Twin boys playing basketball will be juniors, but like the whole camp season or time of year, shoot arounds in the morning, all day at camp, and then you got summer league games, that grind. But again, you look back and they wouldn't change it. I mean,
might have done
awesome.
a little more.
Right. So you wanted to be an attorney from early on. Plan was kind of always mapped out, but one question I like asking, if you weren't doing what you're doing today, what do you think
And is that what would I realistically be doing, or what would I want to be doing?
What would you want to be doing?
I would, if I had my choice, I'd love to be a PGA Tour pro, but that's super unrealistic. I think the other passion of mine is cooking. I'd love to be a chef and maybe own a restaurant. Now, my dad spent 30 plus years in the food service industry. It is a tough industry, and like, would I ever with a family decide to get into that? That would be so hard. I don't know that I would, but that would be my dream.
That's funny you say that. My wife and I have conversations like, if we won the lottery, what would you do to stay busy? Mine would be a chef. It would be breakfast diner in the morning, and then like, I love chicken fingers, but it would be chicken fingers and just the most random gourmet salads and stuff in the afternoon. But
amazing. Yeah, it's kind of you only get so many hobbies and releases, as a professional.
Yeah.
And you got to eat. And then you start doing it, and then you start, I'm not too bad at this, and you develop things that you're good at and things you like, and it's just a beautiful thing.
Favorite thing to make at home?
Steak.
Technique?
And my wife used to never eat steak, and now she loves it because of the way that I make it. I switch up technique all the time. I mean, busy days it was the sous vide, and then you sear. But I get a little goofy sometimes where with a 7-month-old, it's like you're taking too much time on this stuff. But I love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, that's great. And again, one thing, very busy, 7-month-old, add to it day-to-day requirements of the job, but you still find a way to be involved in your community.
Yeah.
So share a little bit about, some groups or organizations you're a part of, and again, outside of the 9 to 5, what occupies your time and what drew you to that?
Sure. Yeah. Outside of my work, my biggest commitment since COVID has been the Ohio Domestic Violence Network. And that was something specifically during COVID. My wife was teaching 5th grade, and just hearing stories of students with troubled homes, for lack of a better term, and seeing statistics during COVID where domestic violence rates were up because you got everybody at home together. You don't get that break. You don't have that safe haven at work or school or wherever it may be. And I had a mentor many years ago tell me, if you're going to get involved with something, find something you really care about and offer your time, and things will just happen naturally from there. Don't be the person who just shows up to put it on their resume and check the box. So I started at that time I was compelled to do pro bono work for Ohio Domestic Violence Network, and specifically survivors. There's a gap in funding from like state and federal funding in what we can provide to survivors if they're assaulted and they have injuries, or they get sued for defamation by their abuser, and other stories. Some of them will make you sick, but sure. So I set up a pro bono partnership between my firm and ODVN, and we've handled a number of pro bono cases since then for survivors, and it is one of the most rewarding things you can ever imagine when you're able to help someone who has nowhere else to turn. And it's a belief of mine among many of my colleagues, the judge I worked for, and I know the federal judicial bench in general, the importance of civics and giving back. And you have this remarkable platform. You need to use it for good. Don't just do your work and make your money and go home and forget about the rest of the world. You have a responsibility to do it. So my work with ODVN, they eventually asked me to join the board, which was a no-brainer. And I've been doing that ever since. And it's so important. It's something too that just the very nature of the work you're doing, you're not going to talk about it too much.
Sure.
So I appreciate you giving the opportunity to just give a high level notes about it here because it's very important to me.
Yeah.
And the other arena, I've recently been involved with the Cincinnati Regional Chamber, one of their leadership programs, and it's a group of 62 individuals. And I kind of looked at it at first, I found out about it. My father passed back in December, found out I had been accepted right around that time, and kind of rolled my eyes. Like, really, we're going to do happy hours and all of this?
Sure.
It has been absolutely incredible. Part of the project is we're in a small group and we're working with a nonprofit. It's called Care Farm in Kentucky. It's like a free grief retreat on a farm for anybody who's lost someone and is struggling dealing with the grief. The owners had their own personal stories, and were driven to establish this. So we're working with them, and then what's funny about these programs, you make connections.
Sure.
You're not going to hit it off with every single person. You make connections with people, and they end up becoming really good friends of yours. But you also have this kind of team dynamic that you form where, you didn't get to know that 60-second person very well, but when you encounter them in their work life, you guys are in it together. Like,
Sure.
You will never forget that. So it's been an amazing experience for me. How do you find the time to do all of this? I don't know, but I like to stay busy, and you take it one day at a time.
Yeah, I always think of people, and you talk, and everyone has their own passions, their own, what they occupy their time with, and I think everyone who's successful is busy, as you should be.
Yeah.
But you find ways for what's important and what you're passionate about, and making the time to do those things. So it's awesome to hear, and glad you're involved in doing all those great things. So you mentioned a couple times mentorship has popped up from an early age, and at 5th grade to in law school, and the judge you mentioned. But my question to you is, if you fast forward your career in 10 years, you have a 10-year-old now, 11, going on 11. You're progressing in your law career and at your firm. What guidance, advice would you give to, whether it's a partner coming up, your own son, anything like that, as you move forward and trying to be better in your career, but advice and passing down, what would that be?
I think a big one for me, and I've preached this a lot recently to our summer associates. You can do the work. You can put your head down and do the work and do it fantastically. But if you're not putting your head up, looking around, and developing relationships with your colleagues in the larger community, with other industry professionals, you're missing opportunities. I tell people, when I started at Dinsmore, it took me a year to meet everyone on my floor. And it's not the biggest floor, but I was day one, head down. Here's some assignments. I got to be perfect. I got to do this. I got to do this. And it took me way too long to get up and meet people and start building those relationships, because it's so critical, especially, the practice of law. It's a technical practice, sure,
right,
but there's a business component of that. And we're a business, and we make money. And if you don't have any clients, you're only going to be so useful, and it gives you a lot of freedom to with your career and in the direction of your career. If you have clients, if you have relationships, and even with other attorneys, I've got great friends that I've been opposing counsel with, and we're great friends. And it's funny, the legal profession, there's so many similarities with athletics, especially as a litigator, where we're best friends, but once we step on that court, we're enemies. And then afterwards, we're going to shake hands and continue to be friends. When we step into the courtroom, it's professional and ethical and all of those things, but it's a strange profession, because as a litigator, there's someone on the other side who's going to nitpick everything that I do and attack everything that I do, and they want me to be wrong, so you got to be on your game. But still having those relationships afterwards, that's where new business comes from. That's where, I want to get into this area. That's where those opportunities come from. So I I think people fail to appreciate that even that small luncheon that you could go to and sit next to this person, you think maybe that was useless, but then you make that one connection and you're planting these seeds and they eventually, you know, kind of like what I was talking about earlier, it seems like luck, but if you do things enough, you know, it comes to fruition.
It all
eventually.
can't be luck.
Yep.
Yeah, very cool and insightful, and I think you touched on the athletic piece of, that's a good analogy of, hey, outside the courtroom we're going to talk, do this. You have a job to do. You have a game that you're preparing for, and your goal is to win.
Yeah.
And whether that's business or, you know, as much as we want to say, you know, well, it's not a game, like, I'm here to win.
Right.
I have a job to do, and I think talking to people that don't have the same, I say everyone has to play sports, but that competitive piece as athletes, and, you know, you forward your career, it's not on the court, it's not actually doing the physical thing, but you're still preparing to win in just the courtroom. So I think always that translation never really goes away.
Sure. And there's no, you know, I've noticed that the litigators in our firm, you have a ton of athletes, and our, you know, the head of litigation runs, you know, Ironmans, and that's not a coincidence. And we've got a lot of former military, and it's a specific mindset. But the people that can, you know, walk and chew gum at the same time are the ones that do the best. So,
yeah, as we wrap up here and close out, you know, one of my mottos is be better, and that's translated into any aspect of my life. No real parameters on it, but through your career and professionally and all the things you've done, any motto or saying that stick out to you, or any advice you've received over your last 20 years that sticks with you on a daily, weekly basis?
Yeah, I think there's sort of two philosophies that overlap some of what we've talked about today. And there's two, because the first one I don't think is completely accurate, and that's that everything worthwhile in life requires some short-term sacrifice, requires hard work, requires some investment. You can take a shortcut and get the short-term reward. I mean, something as simple as health. It's a lot of hard work to do it the right way, and same in professions. It's a lot of hard work to do it the right way, but it's more rewarding in the end. The payoff is always better when you don't take the shortcuts, when you put in the work. But I also say that that's not entirely true, and leads me to the second part of my philosophy, and that's what we've been talking about. There's a little luck involved in everything we do, so that's why it's so important to remain humble. Even as a leader, no matter the profession, no matter what you're doing, remain humble and recognize the opportunities that you've had, and that you've had some good fortune along the way, even if you set the stars up to align eventually.
Yeah, very good. And one closing comment I meant to ask earlier, my closing question is going to be, what advice would you give to, you know, someone graduating from Lakota and, you know, has their career ahead of them? You know, something you've taken away, but before that, any teacher or coach from Lakota that sticks out to you?
Mike Mueller, of course. I mean, when you got good people doing things right, success is just a matter of time. I sent a firm-wide email once and stole that quote, and people are like, that's awesome. But to have a basketball coach who tells you repeatedly, almost daily, basketball is the fourth, fifth, maybe most important thing in your life, you know, faith, family, all those other things, and help develop us into well-rounded human beings.
Yeah.
I spent so much time with Mike Mueller, Coach Mike, that definitely had a big impact on who I am today.
Yeah. Have you played the camp game lately?
No, but
for a popsicle.
When the buddies get together, we still every once in a while we bring it out. Just
that and go watch the '92 championship highlights.
Oh yes, always. And the other part of your question, I think was something I tell my younger self or people graduating Lakota West. I was very intimidated becoming an attorney, becoming a litigator. I'm going to stand in a courtroom with a guy who's been doing this 30 years, or guy or girl who's been doing this 30 years, and like, it's intimidating. And it's very easy, no matter what you're doing, to have imposter syndrome and say, wow, this is a lot of work. But when I worked in federal court, I saw attorneys every day, and it immediately disabused me of this notion that I couldn't do this. I said, okay, even the best attorneys that are in here, I can do that. They're not perfect. They make mistakes. They stumble over their words sometimes, and they're renowned as the best at X, Y, and Z. And there are some really bad attorneys too. And I thought to myself, I can do this. This is comforting. And when I got into practice, it kind of helped me get over that, paralysis by analysis, where you're second guessing yourself. No, you got to decide what you want to do and just do it. So I would encourage Lakota West graduates, anybody going to law school or anybody going into the practice of law, go observe, and you can do it. You have all the tools that you need to accomplish what you want to accomplish. Just get over that self-doubt.
Yeah. Go do it. Get out there. Yeah.
And you'll be amazed what doors open up.
Right. Thanks for taking the time today. It was a great conversation. Lots of good information there. So again, appreciate the time and look forward to staying in touch. So
my pleasure.
Thanks for joining in on this episode of Beyond the Policy. Thanks for hanging out with me on Beyond the Policy. If you got something out of today's conversation, pass it along to a friend, client, or colleague who might enjoy it too. You can always connect with me through the show notes or on LinkedIn. And remember, the best coverage always starts with the right conversations. Until next time, be better.